good morning, afternoon, whatever it is, and welcome to this session on decentralized power and cities rethinking the future of energy in Ukraine and beyond. We have a good set of speakers here, whom I will very soon introduce. But before that, an introduction to this. So the EU-funded project Covenant of Mayors East works with the Ukrainian municipalities since 2011. And as of today, there are 297 signatory cities in Ukraine, which have developed 187 action plans. The plan of these, the intention with the plans is to serve as a basis for local reconstruction strategies of energy systems by the municipalities once the security situation allows that. And you all know that massive attacks have taken place against Ukrainian energy systems since a year, and they have been directed at energy installations around the country. And this has then directed attention towards energy security and decentralized power generation as a solution. And some municipalities have prepared strategies and plans to increase their independence from also the common grid. And one of those examples is Dolina, who will be speaking later today. Local authorities have started with practical implementation of projects to increase resilience of the community. And these range from PV stations with battery energy storages for hospitals and water supply companies to replacing natural gas with local biomass for district heating, as well as installing of autonomous municipal heat supply systems. There is, for this project, there is actually, or some of these projects, there is European support from the public and the private sector. The Covenant East supports communities with project preparation and conceptualization. And the number of cities engaging in Ukraine allows solid cooperation in developing viable projects for funding. This is a great challenge, but also an opportunity for EU-funded initiatives and businesses to provide their support to municipalities. Covenant of Mayors Europe cities, in an attempt to curb energy demand and indirectly support Ukraine this way. So they have come together and joined the Cities Energy Savings Sprint campaign. And this campaign is part of the Repower EU plan, and it aims at putting in place voluntary energy saving measures to prepare for winter, which has been strongly impacted by the energy crisis last year. The European Union and its cities and regions support actively their Ukrainian counterparts. The European Alliance of Cities and Regions for the Reconstruction of Ukraine was launched by the Committee of Regions and its partners, including the European Commission, as well as the Ukrainian Association of Local and Regional Authorities. All this in order to coordinate joint efforts towards helping the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. Voila, so let's get going now. The first point in our program is a setting of the scene by the city of Lviv regarding reconstruction and urban transition mission, and the role of decentralized energy production in this. And I have here the pleasure to invite Ms. Alexandra Sladkova, the Director for Climate of the City of Lviv, to take the floor. She will be speaking here on behalf of Andriy Sadovi, who is the mayor of Lviv, who unfortunately was not able to join us at this hour, but we might be seeing him later on. And just a word about Lviv, it's a member of the Covenant, Mr. Sadovi is a mayor of Lviv since 2006. and there's been quite a bit of investment in decentralized and resilient energy systems in the city. And now let's hear Ms. Sladkova. The floor is yours.
Good morning. We are very happy to welcome you on behalf of the city mayor of Lviv. He will be joining us later. We would like to give you some background. In 2011, Lviv was the first city that joined the Covenant of Mayors. And the city had basically the same ambitions regarding climate as most cities in Europe and globally to become the climate neutral city by 2050. Since 2013, the huge investment started, including also into the energy system and also heat supply. We had the EBRD supported project to renovate the centralized district heating that improved the efficiency of the system. And the final project was the biomass based station. However, in the current situation that we have been in since last year, we do not fully understand whether this is the highest priority. So we are now finalizing this element, which was not completed within that project. But 14 million euro was the investment over the past 10 years. Also, jointly with the EBRD, we developed the Green City Action Plan in 2019. We realized the direction to develop our system. We also need to say that previously we were moving to decentralization. We were trying to withdraw the central heating stations in order to optimize the funding. However, in the context of the attacks at the energy system, we turned the tables. We are trying to bring back the withdrawn district heating centers into the system. Every day we are facing new challenges, and also in line with the technologies that are developing in the world. And everyone knows about the attacks at the Ukrainian energy infrastructure and critical infrastructure facilities. Therefore, we are acting in response, supported by the USAID. We are installing the 8 installations for gas generators, and on the key central district heating stations, we could use them as the backup when the power is cut off. Recently, we also modernized 8 heating stations, and we installed the heat pumps, also using ESCO contracts to install the solar panels to provide power to these power stations. Another important challenge is to provide power supply to hospitals, because obviously many facilities could stay during the blackout without the power supply, but not the hospitals. Therefore, in the largest rehabilitation center in the western of Ukraine, which is Unbroken, that has already treated over 15,000 patients of the heavy injuries, we have been modernizing it. We have the power generators and also the fossil fuel boilers, but we need to enhance it. This is the important facility to find a solution for the power supply of the hospital that would be sustainable. I believe innovations start where they're most needed at the moment. And the solution we are going to develop for this rehabilitation center could be the solution to be scaled out to the rest of Ukraine and also to the rest of the world, because anyone could face similar challenges. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Ms. Sladkova, for kicking us off here. A lot of messages there from biomass to decentralization, and indeed the key point of hospitals. This is something indeed what we would call very critical infrastructure. So thank you. Now I will go directly to the next agenda point, which is a panel discussion. We have here a very capable and diverse speaker list. I will quickly present our speakers here. We have, first of all, Nina Ratilainen from the Turku City Council and from Finland. And she's, apart from a Finn, she is also a member of the Committee of Regions commissions, two commissions, which are dealing with environment, climate, energy, citizenship issues, governance, institutional and external affairs. So basically everything around the world, around the range of topics. And she is also representing the Länsi-Suomi region, which means the Western Finland region, and is active in the working group on Ukraine. Then we have Ivan Diriv, who is the mayor of Dolina in Ukraine. And he's been a mayor since December 2020. And Dolina is an active member of the Covenant of Mayors East and a signatory since 2008. Then we continue to Mykola Vavryshuk, the mayor of Khmelnytsky in Ukraine. Again, a Covenant member since 2015, and has also developed, taken up the 2030 targets of the Covenant. On that, yes, and we have Annalisa Boni just turning on the camera. Welcome from the city of Bologna, the vice mayor, and she is very active in international relations and cooperation issues, European funding, as well as the 2030 climate mission, the climate neutral cities mission. Bologna is one of the cities in this initiative, and also an active signatory in the Covenant since way back 2008. And then last but not least, we have Oleg Polovinko, who is the advisor to the mayor at the city of Kiev. And he has 15 years of experience in the system integration and various cases of product development from scratch, so to say, and implementation of national projects. So that is our distinguished panel. And I will now kick off directly with the first question. We're going to discuss energy security, sufficiency, and the effect of war on energy planning. And I would hope that speakers will not use more than 3 to 4 minutes to their answers. And what we're looking at here are, how the cities are facing these resiliency challenges, how it has affected planning. And then also we're going to hear from our European Union colleagues here on thoughts from the EU side on this. And then first question goes to Kiev, to Mr. Oleg Polovinko. And my question to you is that Kiev has been in the headlines as a target of the Russian attacks. So could you describe your energy resilience strategies and point out any lessons from the Ukrainian municipalities that the EU counterparts should keep in mind when we are thinking about energy resilience?
First of all, thank you for hosting us. Thank you for your attention to Ukrainian war and for support. In addressing the challenges brought by the war, Kiev has adopted both immediate actions and forward-looking plans. If we talk about the current actions, that was Alexandra underlined about the challenges which facing the cities, the critical infrastructure of the cities, and the medical sphere of the cities. So in that actions, what we currently already done, it's a strong partnership with private sector and the businesses. And for example, our partnership in collaboration with telecom operators arranged internal roaming for all citizens of the country, which provided the services of connectivity even in the moment of blackouts. So cooperation between the telecom and the city municipality makes the coordinations, and we used diesel generators for telecom operators and make the connectivity available. The second one, of course, we making the backups for hospitals, for critical infrastructure in the heating, and the diesel generators for blackout time. And the third one, it will be useful for any city in the world, that the challenges which we are facing in the war is quite similar to the challenges of the flooding or fire forest or earthquake. And this is about the notification and right instruction for our citizens in the moment of disaster. So we have emergency service exercise where we are actively performing exercises with emergency services of the city for diverse range of scenarios, and preparing for all of these scenarios. If we talk about where we are looking, it's about innovative energy solutions, future projects, including development of microgrid networks and private off-grid connectivity, which will make our energy supply more reliable. And we still trying to implement green city actions and carbon neutrality in all our projects which implemented in the city. Of course, we are thanks to the donors and foundations who support in Kyiv and our citizens in such a challengeable time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleg. This was a good continuation, and indeed, particularly thank you for your for those examples that can be relevant for us in the EU side. Now, let's move on. And by the way, I guess I never presented myself. I presented you, but I didn't mention that. So maybe to the viewers. So indeed, my name is Eero Ailio. I work as an advisor at the Energy Department of the European Commission, and a lot working with cities, including Ukrainian ones. So that's now we've covered that part. So let's move on to, I would like to go now to Mr. Mikola Wawrzyk at the Khmelnytsky city. He's the deputy mayor of the city. And my question to you would be, I noticed that the nuclear power plant of Khmelnytsky is something which I believe must be strategic infrastructure in the region. And I assume that your city also relies on power from it. Your city has also an advanced covenant action plan, and with a focus on energy efficiency. So how has the war affected your energy planning?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. We are not connected actually to the atomic station. It's a different connection, but we are a little bit over 100 kilometers away. And yes, we're having a lot of challenges now in Khmelnytsky, as every city in Ukraine, because of the war, because Russian terrorist state is trying to leave us without electricity and heat in wintertime, to leave our women and children. That's why we had to change a little bit our strategy, because Khmelnytsky actually has, if you're talking about heating system, we had a cogeneration system since 2002, and now we have 15 cogeneration units with total capacity almost 8 megawatts, and it was installed in 11 largest boiler houses. And it helped us a lot when we had these blackouts and shortages, last winter, and sure it will help us this winter also. And it helps us to keep and to give uninterrupted services for 70% of cities' facilities. The other 30% of cities' facilities were done with just like generators. So 30% of all the boiler rooms were connected to generators. So that was done like that. So our goal at this time is to go and have effective centralized heat supply system with the possible use of renewable energy and waste heat in the share of at least like 20%. This is our long-term goal. And for the short-term period, we are going to do some more cogeneration system. We're going to make 2 more. So we're going to have 17 till the end of 2024. And if you're talking about long-term projects, we are thinking and we are planning of installation of a solar power plant with a capacity of 1.5 megawatts. Installation of panels will reduce electricity consumption. And also, we are planning and we are working on construction of a cogeneration plant at the solid waste management landfill with an electrical capacity of 3.5 megawatts. So basically, we're gonna build it at the landfill, and then we're gonna connect it to the nearest boiler house room. That's for the future. And also, the consumption of separate power transmission cable lines, the electrical jumpers from boiler houses where cogeneration units are installed to powerful boiler houses. This is also very critical for us at this point because we have to be sure that our people in Khmelnytsky get heat in winter time.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Vavrichuk. This was very concrete, and it's good you corrected my assumption that you would be connected to the NPP. That's what you get when you just look at the map and then you draw quick conclusions. So now I learned something. Okay, let's move on to our third speaker here, Mr. Ivan Diriv, the mayor of Dolina. And I would have a question to you. I mean, there are actually different views on whether size of the city matters in ensuring energy security. And I don't know, whatever is true, I hear that your municipality is doing some very interesting activities in this sense. So I'd be happy if you could share your experiences with us. And perhaps turn on your camera.
Дякую.
Чути
мене?
It's perfect.
Все добре?
Can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Thank you to all the organizers. Thank you to the participants. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for sharing our experience.
Є досить великий.
The experience of our municipality is quite extensive. We have joined the Covenant of Mayor in 2009. We were probably one of the first cities to do that, and we have implemented a lot of projects, European projects on comprehensive thermal modernization, installation of heating points in kindergartens, transferring boiler house to alternative sources of fuel. But in 2024, we have encountered other challenges, more large-scale challenges, and we started thinking, how can we improve the resilience of our municipality? Because there was either no electricity or shortage of electricity due to the missile attacks on energy infrastructure. So we decided to create a so-called energy island where our critical energy infrastructure in our municipality can work both together with the grid and the national grid and without it. There are three regimes: together with the grid, when there is a deficit of power, we can supply power to different destinations, villages, or districts of the city. Or in the worst case scenario, when there is no power supplied from the state, we have to have it on our own. How can we achieve it? It could be done by a so-called cellular energy network. We are developing this project. We are uniting in this system different units of cogeneration, the distribution system, and the supply of it to the customers, and also to the critical infrastructure like water supplied hospitals, kindergartens, and to the households. This is going to be all united in one network.
чітку підтримку.
We have spoken about this with the president, and on the 7th of November, there is a decree, presidential decree 737, on the implementation of such projects in the regions, and the president tasked the government, the cabinet, to harmonize and to improve the legislation in order to make this possible, because all the energy system was built back in the Soviet times. It was only heat, electrical, nuclear stations, and now the world is changing. We have different generating stations. We have different initiatives from the population, from regular citizens. Everything needs to be reformatted, and we will be glad to share our experience. We have done the feasibility study. We are now looking for investors for this project. It's a long term initiative, it's not something that could be done overnight, uh, but I can see the future in this, not only in Ukraine, but also in other countries. Now, speaking of our short term and medium term objectives, we have generators in our administrative buildings, in hospitals. We are going to install a 140 kilowatt um, installation, and we have a solar station at one of the kindergartens. We have other projects. We have a detailed plan of actions. We want to build a large accumulation storage station with 2 blocks,
Пікових
which would provide us with the supply of energy during the peak times, if not for the whole city, at least for the critical infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deriv. I think you gave there such a panoply of examples that it's well, it's difficult to remember all, but it's good that we have the recording. And I think you showed that indeed your city might be small, but there's the plans are big, and the commitment indeed to also do them, implement them. That's great. There we go. Now our next speaker is then Annalisa Boni, the vice mayor from the city of Bologna, and now it's time to hear a little bit views from the European Union side to see how all this sounds. And what I would like to ask you is that if you could describe us a little bit type of decentralized energy solutions that Bologna is implementing, and then maybe something about the sort of how people have reacted to the city's energy saving sprint, or this kind of an idea of saving energy in the longer term. We talk about energy sufficiency as well as a new approach. So could you perhaps share some of your experiences on that area?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, hello Eero, hello Nina, hello everyone. Thank you very much for inviting Bologna on this panel, and in the framework of COP, let's not forget that. So it's a little contribution, even if it's online. It's important to bring the voice of cities in this big, negotiation arena. Yeah, and we work a lot with the Ukrainian friends, especially Kharkiv, with whom we cooperate very closely also on energy. So maybe the first thing I can say is that for us, the war in Ukraine has woken us to the fact that, it has woken up in us in many ways, but for sure on the need for energy autonomy and energy security, and therefore the importance of decentralized energy, but also in terms of, let's say, local market production in a way of renewable energies. So making sure that we stop and we progressively exit from dependence on fossil fuels. And that's why I want to say we are in COP, and it's important to get this objective clear, coming out from our dependence on fossil fuels, and in a way relying on renewables produced possibly, and boosted in a local market. Because if we invest in renewables, that's for sure very important in terms of reduction of CO2 and then dependence on fossil fuels, and therefore, polluting and emitting. But it's also, it's also a way of, fighting one of the biggest poverty expression manifestation we've had in the last years, which is energy poverty. This has very much impacted. I don't have to say it, we all know it. So starting to move away from that, and in a way protecting families from fluctuations and from contexts that are geopolitical or related to, again, fossil fuels movements. It's really important. So that's why renewable energies is the first, let's say, key area of work for us inside the mission, the 2030 climate neutrality mission, because we realize that it's really the precondition to achieve the different objectives of the mission. For sure, the emission issues, so the climate objective, but also the energetic, the economic, the social objectives as well. So that's why for us it's a big focus. So in that respect, we do different things, and I'll get to your second question. There are different ingredients that we see in this type of work. For sure, a very strong political will of the municipality, but more globally, really trying to rally everyone around this, maintaining this objective in time with a long-term perspective. But also the sort of regulatory coherence and multi-level governance, multi-level legislation and regulatory framework that has to be enabling. So that's very important, that from the European level side, but in Ukraine, not yet. It's not the European Union level, but for sure the national, down to the regional, down to the local, the multi-level regulatory framework has to be coherent, strong, and a real enabler for the cities to push for the climate neutrality objective. And energies wise, that's the most important, let's say, and area of work. And then I would say the third ingredient, and that's where I wanted to respond to your question, is the sort of governance. And that's where, you know, participation and how have citizens reacted to that. I mean, of course, the energy, you know, the energy crisis, let's call it like this, because it has been and it still is, has again troubled and woken up a lot of people in the city, which in a way has made them realize that they have a lot to do in terms of contribution to the you know, to the work we are doing. So even, you know, reducing consumption is huge. This is, you know, it's not only about production, but it's really about production of energy. But it's also about reducing. Sorry, my English. Reducing consumption, because we sometimes give it for granted, but it can have a huge impact. Already with consumption reduction, you can do a lot if you manage to do it properly, and that requires you know, a huge basis of information, training, accompanying measures, and so on. We've just opened in April a one-stop shop service that even does basic things like helping people to read their bill, which, you know, we may think it's something that everyone should able to do, but it's not the case. We are not used. Myself, if you ask me, I'm not, you know, I won't say that I'm an expert on the energy bill, but it's really important to give all the necessary information and accompaniment to contribute to the energy transition. So how people have reacted to this has been a much bigger awareness in terms of energy needs and consumption, but also new ways, new forms of energy production, so that they can also, you know, buy or acquire themselves, install, and so on. And the other thing is that we have just concluded a very interesting experiment. So the cities that haven't done so, I think, is really worthwhile doing it. We've just completed a first, exercise of first organization of the Citizens' Assembly on Climate, which has basically worked for 5 months by themselves, not with us, themselves. It's an autonomous body of the municipality that has worked. It was 8,800 people were, you know, selected, and then they ended up, the survivors were 88. They all worked very steadily and very committedly on this idea of how can we make Bologna more energy, let's say, autonomous, more solar, and, you know, stronger in terms of fight to climate change. And that has resulted into like 3 or 4 proposals, very strong proposals that we are looking into, but they are all, you know, a way to include people in the process of, you know, moving towards neutrality and energy autonomy, which is necessary if you want to succeed, because otherwise people get left behind, not only in terms of economic, you know, the economic side, but also in terms of understanding their contribution and, you know, their role as game changers as well. So yeah, I don't know if that's sufficient. I could go on forever, but
no, it's that was sufficient. It was sufficient. Thank you, Annalisa. I think it was good that you brought in this this aspect, also the way you work with the citizens, and I'm happy to hear that there is actually this kind of a concrete thinking now based on what the Ukrainian cities are going through, and that is helpful. So I think in practice what happened is in Ukraine, many municipalities are suffering from, you know, from blackouts for obvious reasons related to the war. In Europe, it was not that, but it was the prices which then, once they shot up to the sky, So that created the other type of blackout in inverted commas. Okay, good. Now let's move to a sort of a second round of questions now. Thank you very much for already the first inputs here. We'll look a bit more at towards the reconstruction and the longer term, and also perhaps some more of the behavioral issues. So now I would like to invite to the floor Nina Ratilainen from the Turku City Council, indeed. And I would like to ask you about what the European Union institutions, and of course Committee of Regions as in the lead in this case, are doing to help the sustainable rebuilding of Ukrainian cities. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eero, for your question, and I'm really, really happy to be with you here today. First of all, my greetings from the United Nations Climate Conference, COP28 from Dubai. I am here actually quite close to the Ukrainian pavilion, which hosts quite amazing program during next few days. So take a look at also the program in the Ukrainian pavilion. There has lots of discussion regarding energy there as well. But to your question, Eero, I think in COP this week, we fight to achieve fossil-free future, and that is the biggest fight we have here. And as Anna-Liisa said, the energy independence is not sufficient merely. The world needs to be in transforming our energy system, both decentralized and independent of fossil fuels. We don't need no more Putin's energy, but we need renewable energy and positive future. In the core of our discussion today, of course, is the courage and leadership of regional and local authorities in Ukraine, such as in our panel today. It has really turned to be a cornerstone in Ukrainian resilience. And I think it has shown to us all that local communities in Ukraine have so much potential, and they also will in the future be in the very center of reconstruction efforts. Therefore, I think that subnational capacity building overall will be key in reconstruction, but it will also bring lots to Ukraine's path to EU accession. So many processes are connected in many ways when we talk about a Ukrainian future today. It will be quite essential to restore functional and efficient local self-governments, as it is essential for the decision-making for the affected communities in Ukraine. And where possible in this situation, local and regional self-governance is the key to designing and implementing sustainable reconstruction projects, as we have heard from these previous examples, which I enjoyed quite a lot, to have concrete examples on what the sustainable future and reconstruction looks like in Ukraine at the moment. But as for us, the Committee of the Regions in European Union, we of course stand quite side by side with Ukraine and are ready to support also local and regional authorities in all endeavors that has been taken, that are present and yet to come. Of course, as the European Union, we must make use of the expertise and support that EU regions and cities can offer, ranging from humanitarian aid to twinning and practical support to reconstruction, such as cities like Bologna and my own city of Turku. But what local and regional authorities in Ukraine need now, or what we have heard, of course, local and regional authorities in Ukraine are in best position to communicate the needs. But what we have understood so far is firstly, the access to the necessary capacity building and sufficient financial resources and financial instruments. And secondly, I think we need a strengthened local democracy in Ukraine. It will not only benefit the reconstruction efforts, but also will bring the country closer to EU on the path to accession. So local self-governance is quite key to many developments. Quite recently in Committee of the Regions, we made an opinion on the Ukraine facility, where we actually insisted the need to mainstream the principles of the green transition with the aim of building back better. which is of course built according to OECD guidelines. Now, we do strongly think that the recovery should focus on sustainable development as well as social cohesion and support actions redressing the environmental damage caused by war, which is quite devastating in many areas in Ukraine, unfortunately. I think we believe that the Ukraine facility has many potential also regarding to sustainable reconstruction process and support the future green transition and the decarbonization process. And for that, I also hope that our messages in our opinion will be heard when we have asked that the local authorities need to be involved in process of planning and decision making as well as implementation of the facility. We in the Committee of Regions, of course, work with the European Alliance of Cities and Regions for the Reconstruction in Ukraine, a great partner for Ukrainian European cities. And within this alliance, of course, we have lots of meetings to come and our partners can launch specific appeals. So this is also a great platform for us to share knowledge in future as well. And for example, to give something concrete in the end, EU cities are sharing many experiences and support with Ukrainian cities in the installation of heat pumps, for example. The winter is yet again coming. I feel it in Finland already, and I hope that we are able to make more efforts in restoring Ukrainian energy system to help people today and also to be sustainable in the future and help us all in that way in combating climate crisis. Lastly, I think that environmental protection and energy system, it is a quite important area in development and supporting decentralization overall, as well as territorial cooperation within the EU and between EU cities and Ukrainian cities. This is quite important area. I couldn't probably mention and highlight enough how much cooperation we can have and how much of an effect the resilience and recovery of the energy system and development for sustainable future can bring to Ukrainian cities. And of course, we need to start documenting, mapping, and measuring also the damage and all the consequences that has been taking place in different Ukrainian cities and regions, because of course the situation is quite different in different parts of the country. I was lucky enough to visit with our Committee of the Regions Ukraine working group in the city of Lviv a few months ago. So I have been able to witness in my own eyes all the best practices and amazing work that is taking place, for example, in the rehabilitation center. And I just want to say it's always very, very interesting for us to hear concrete examples and of the needs of Ukrainian local and regional authorities. So very, very nice to be in touch this way today also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. There's a lot of many messages there indeed, and I think people picked up the message also concerning the events at COP. So I'm going to at least check myself what's going on there after I'm done here. Very good. Moving on, I have here question number 6, and this is going now to Lviv again. I believe Alexandra, if you could take this one. So we've been now discussing reconstruction, and the war is still on, but reconstruction has already started in many European cities. So what do you see as this kind of, let's say, opportunities for the Ukrainian cities in this? This was not something you wanted to do in this way, of course. This is a crisis, but this is happening. The reconstruction is happening. So what are the opportunities there, and how do you think the people will react to this? Do people expect more radical or more sort of gradual changes in this transition of LVIB in this case? Voilà, that's my question.
Так, ну насправді наші основні розмови
In fact, all of the major conversations, even this morning we had the meeting to discuss and decide about the solutions. What do we do with the heat station if there is the power cut? And these are the power generators, these are the frequency converters and power accumulators and converters. But we still need to think about the future, whether the people are ready. They are certainly expecting the best possible reconstruction and modernization of Ukraine. At the same time, however, if we talk about investment,
така свідомість буде
I don't think that this approach and understanding will be the number one priority. However, the situation pushes us towards the sustainable solutions because we can clearly understand why we need to reject fossil fuels and natural gas. Because unlike most European people, we can experience it firsthand when we had the air raid alerts and the funerals happening, and when we have this dependence. We understand that our city needs to be much more resilient. Over the past 10 years, we have invested a lot into
в розвиток наших комунальних підприємств і
the development of municipal enterprises. We recently realized that our municipal utility companies
території
are
ті самі
located on the same territory, which is 200 hectares. We have the biogas station within the same area that is supposed to convert the sludge from the composting station and use it for
вироблення біогазу.
biogas generation. There is also the organic waste station, and if we add the organic waste to the sludge, we can generate more biogas. Also, the waste incineration plant is under construction in that area. It hadn't planned to produce the alternative power before, but now it has. And now another key project is the biomass heating pump. And all of this investment basically is covering one territory, which helps us intensify the return on that investment and the outcomes of such projects, because we could interchangeably use the products, the heat, for example, for heat pumps, etc. Now we also have the project for the district heating and cooling. And we are developing the transformation plan, the investment plan, and the new heat supply system. The heat supply systems are important because we see the future of our city and the energy system of our city 100% decentralized, with the big and micro generations based on various options, but with the major capacity in the northern part of the city, where the waste incineration plant and the biogas station and the biogas boiler is used, and they can provide renewables for all of the city. However, we don't want these contingencies to happen. If we have the resilient and consistent system of all of these different types of generations from different types of fuels, then in case of any of these elements being affected, we would always have another alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, those were, again, excellent examples on how to plan. And I'm impressed, I mean, by all what you all say, how you keep still this future in the mind and look at the best solutions there, despite all these daily challenges that you have. Now, we have only about 5 minutes left. Ooh, this will be a fast one now. I have a question here to Dolina. Mr. Direv, about, I mean, you're a smaller municipality, but of course not immune to this, to the war. So could you tell us very briefly what you expect in your energy planning, that, you know, how basically how the thinking of the citizens is affected here? So do you stay on the line of decarbonization, or is something changing? The floor is yours.
Я перепрошую, немає чомусь українського перекладу, я не зовсім зрозумів запитання. Олександра, може ви мені допоможете зрозуміти?
I didn't have the translation, and I couldn't answer. I couldn't answer it.
Is the translation? Yes, it is. So my question to you was, Mr. Direv, if you could, you know, please tell us what you expect your future energy planning, how is that developing in this situation? Is that, and more specifically, the role of consumers, is that becoming more central than in the past in the future Dolina energy system?
Олександра, перекладіть мені, будь
Якщо
ласка.
це все ще немає перекладу, то
If you still cannot hear the translation, I can translate that. Eero asked you about the future.
ну, на перший план
And do you prioritize your energy consumers in your vision of the future? And what is the ideal future for your municipality in the next 15, 20, 30 years?
Thank you,
Велике
Alexandra.
спасибі.
Thank you for that.
Коментарі.
In my previous talk, I already mentioned the system that we inherited from the Soviet system, which was focused on a big generation where the consumer was only a consumer. However, if you imagine it as a pyramid with Ukrenergo on top, the generation stations, heating and nuclear, then the distribution stations, the regional station, and the consumer is at the very bottom. And now we can see this pyramid turning upside down, and the consumer is not only the consumer. The consumer now has an opportunity to generate energy. They can install their own generation units, they can provide for their own demand, but also for somebody else's. Nobody can prohibit you from generating power or even selling it or giving it away. Of course, there are a lot of aspects that need to be considered to ensure quality, the interaction with the others, so that the power does not go to the areas under repair. The plan that we are developing now is trying to consider all of this. It puts a consumer in the center, because it's not just the consumer but a player on the market who can both generate energy, regulate the demand, and to consume. In my chat, I gave you a link to a presentation. If you would like to know a little bit more, there's more information in that presentation, and also my contact details for further questions. So I think a system that I am describing is the main system that will exist in the next decades. I am convinced that a project like this and other similar projects will serve as examples for other municipalities. I have no doubts about it, because we are not only speaking about energy independence, security, it's also about a decent life in the future, a decent work, and independence in the general sense of the word. The situation in Ukraine is very difficult, but if we do not win soon, I am afraid this plague will spread all over the world.
Thank you, Mr. Dirov. That was very, very wise words there, indeed, on the bigger picture, as we say. Great. Now, I would like to ask Annalisa Boni a follow-up question related to this event, actually, that we are organizing. Covenant of Mayors is a host of this event, and I was wondering, you have experience on both on the European Covenant and on cooperation with Ukraine as well. How do you see the role for the Covenant of Mayors in sort of engaging with the Ukrainian cities? I'm talking here, of course, about the European cities, EU cities in the Covenant, and how they could cooperate with the Ukrainian cities. Would you have some thoughts on this topic?
Well, I think that one of the ways in which, there has been already a lot of cooperation in terms of, as you say, really primary needs. For instance, the generators of hope, the campaign, and very concrete aspects in terms of, infrastructure and things like that. But I'm more thinking in terms of medium, long term, hopefully when the war will be over. But it's more about how maybe the experience we've had in terms of our energy and climate plans. I think that these have been extremely useful, at least at our level, in order to build the basis for, planning, programming, actions for the municipality itself, but also for the rest of the city. Because I think that it's really important that, if we had started before, if somebody had told us how to do it, or the experience, if we have had the experience of other people, you have to follow the steps for sure. But I think that building a coalition of the willing, let's say, at the city level with stakeholders and so on, is something you need to build together with your plan that is just for the municipality, because otherwise this plan risks to remain just a thing that is on your shoulders, and that very often a municipality doesn't have the means, the competence in terms, for instance, of regulation, or even competence, just competence, or even the capacity and so on. So while you build your plan and you put it in practice, you need to make sure that your role is also a role of facilitating, nudging, and really pushing a coalition of all the stakeholders, from the public sector to the private sector, from the biggest interlocutors to the smallest interlocutors, and really try to enable a sort of movement at the local level to push this energy transition, because otherwise it has to cover so many aspects. It has to cover, transversality of policy inside the administration. It has to entail cross-sector cooperation between different sectors that very often do not speak. I'm not talking only about inside the municipalities, but also outside. The sector of mobility and the sector of energy, the sector of education, the sector of digital, the sector of green. Everything has to be very much, synergized from the very beginning. And energy should not stay in one side as one single policy doing their own things. It's really more around a vision and the transformation of the cities that you see, that is holistic and comes with the contribution of every main stakeholders you have in the city, among which the municipality. But I find that the Covenant of Mayors is very good because it's built the foundation for us to understand this. But at the same time, we need to now move out of the fact that this is only pushed by us. So the responsibility is not only relying on us. It's really about, even with the private sector, starting to talk about co-responsibility. It's not only the private sector gives us what we need, or they give us the solution, the technological solution. No, it's about feeling and implementing the responsibility that the private sector has as well, in terms of purpose, in terms of transforming the city. So plans, instruments, whatever you want from the side of the municipality, but at the same time and in parallel also build the coalition, the pact, more than a pact, the contract that can bind all this together. So I think that this could be something that could benefit both sides, from Ukraine and Europe, in terms of experience. What are the experiences that we are going through?
Thank you, Annalisa. I think those are really key comments, and indeed examples that we have come across when talking to the cities that have made the most progress. So it tends to be many of the things you said there, that they build a very strong local coalition, which has the stakeholders, public, private, all that together, and then this kind of longer term commitment to a project, which is energy transition, or how it's then worded, that can differ. But I think that there's a common project, and it's, in ideal cases, it's built with that kind of an autonomy, that it doesn't even depend on the city, or it does not depend on the mayor that much, because that's the risk of when the mayor changes, the projects will be forgotten and others come. So I think, yes, those are extremely important point. Also the private sector, that it becomes a thing, and the silo breaking, the one that within the city administration, energy speaks with transport, speaks with health, and the other sectors, because everything gets integrated. And that actually, the integration takes me
and then mainly one sector that really never is in the game, and should be, two sectors that should be in the game, is planning, urban planning, and public works. They always work on their own, but they need energy, has to be part of that, sustainability, environment and stuff. They have to be part of those from day one.
Yeah, very good point.
Sorry.
No. That's a good addition, and of course we know that situations differ from city to city. So maybe our Ukrainian friends have different settings, but well, this is at least to give ideas on what are some of the issues we're dealing with, at least on within the EU covenant. Now, indeed, integration, that takes us very naturally to Oleg Polovinko and Kiev city, because we speak in Europe often about the combination of green and digital transition as part of the European Green Deal. And I know that Kiev has been investing a lot in digital solutions, also as part of improving the resilience of your energy system. And I think you mentioned already something briefly, or was it our Lviv colleague? Now I'm mixing already, but please tell us a bit more what you are doing with digital solutions in your future planning.
First of all, to continue the topics, the Kiev is the capital of Ukraine, and we have in energy grid, we have some special statuses for government square, for critical infrastructure, which covers needs of the Kiev. So in this case, we have different channels of the energy which connected to the city, and we have internally 3 power plants which situated right in the Kiev. So currently we are focusing on coordination and creation of situation awareness center of the Kyiv, which integrated with main suppliers and the critical infrastructure, and making coordination and real-time monitoring of what's happening in the city and what's going on with critical infrastructure. In addition, now we are making the modeling of different scenario of, for example, of attack of the missiles on one of the power stations and which users will lose energy in this moment. For communications with our users, we use Kyiv Digital App, is the city applications which provide different services, and main of them is the notifications of the missile attack, of the status of the critical infrastructure and power supplies. And right from the situation center, our operators have the possibility to notify directly that citizens about conditions of the suppliers what's already work with them. And this application gives us several opportunities. One is notification, and another one is collecting feedbacks from our citizens, collect real status of the needs on that points, and help us in real time make the right decision on real data. If we talk about the future, where we are working on, first of all, it's digital twin. It's for managing the city, for real-time monitoring, and again for modeling of the problems in infrastructure and energy grids. And part of this project, it's hazard map development, which aiming to identify and prepare for potential energy risk in the city. So if to summarize, we are creating the City Awareness Center, we make the modeling on the future of different scenarios, and coordinating all our activities with the citizens. And the last one, which somebody mentioned from previous speaker, one of the big part of Kyiv digital applications, it's electronic democracy. For example, last year we launched the petition in our applications, which helps us involve citizens in city decisions. And when we talk about the distributed energy grids, some initiatives comes from the citizens. They collect the votes for that petitions. For the year, we collect more than several million votes for different questions. And for one petition, for one initiative, you need only the 6,000 votes, and these questions go directly to city parliament, which solve it and implement it in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleg. Those are, again, very concrete points. And I think it confirms this. I would claim that there's a general impression, at least here among colleagues, that Ukraine is very advanced on many of the digital technologies, and that's something which is a great asset, because this way you can really jump some stages in when then rethinking, replanning, and organizing the energy systems. So that's a very good point. Now, I've gone through my sort of like a prepared list of questions, and I'm just sort of looking at Nina perhaps a little bit here. And I didn't ask you a second question yet, so I could of course put you on the spot now, and see that you've heard what has been said here in the particularly in this second session, which was more sort of reconstruction future oriented. So I don't know if you would like to sort of react to some of the points. Did that raise some thoughts in your mind, since you are sort of in this EU-Ukraine activity as a I'm not saying full-time job, but it's very much part of your full-time job, at least.
Thank you, Eero, indeed.
Okay. Well, we have to conclude. All right. Well, in
Great
that case,
session and thoughts. That would be my overall point. and we'll continue the discussion.
That's right. Let's stay in touch indeed. Thank you so much to all of you speakers. Sorry for the little mishap with the interpretation at one point. We've taken lots of notes. I wish you really a great day, and please look at some of the activities on the EU COP28 events, but also the Ukrainian ones, and let us stay in touch. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And thank